But for us as a flag state and for the owners, it's extremely difficult to make sure that one vessel, will be ready to comply with the international standard and then specific regional requirements. That changed the whole game. I mean, you can tell IMO approval for ballast water technology versus the US Coast Guard, and the timing is different, and that put the owners in a situation where they don't know where to invest and which technology they should buy, whether that is approved by the IMO but it's not approved by the Coast Guard. Is my ship going to the US Coast Guard or to the US right now, or would it go in the future if not going? So that sort of balance between the international rules, standard, if we may say, and the regional requirements, it what puts a lot of pressure into the flag state, helping the owners to be ready, and the owners themselves taking decisions on how to, comply with the regulation. My biggest concern is how professional and how fair the Port State Control will carry inspections. As it is right now, if the certificate is in place, there should be no question asked. But if there's some kind of grounds to get deeper on inspection, that's when the problem will or may appear. And my main concern is not the technology, is not availability. Probably might be dry docking space and the price of those dry docks at that time because of the availability, of course. But my bigger concern is how the Port State Control would implement that. There are guidelines in how to do that, but as you know well, IMO may say something and you regionally will have to face different requirements. Whether that's Australia, that's Asia and China, or that might be the US Coast Guard, everyone may have a different deviation of the IMO standards. And so for the owner's point of view, from the flag state point of view, it's difficult to deal with an international standard as well as different regional specific on top requirements. So that's for me the main concern. It's not availability of the technology, it's a little bit of the dry dock capacity, but mainly how to deal with questions asked by Port State Control and how those Port State Control officers will be trained to deal with something which is hidden to your eye. You cannot really tell if a living organism is there or not unless you have sort of equipment to check whether or not that's working. Liberian Registry submitted a proposal at the IMO. After putting data together from different classification societies, we found that there will be not, or probably there will not be sufficient dry dock capacities by 2020, 2021. And so that would be the first consideration, whether or not you have capacities to do that. Second, to take additional measures on board to avoid discrepancies with the Port State Control. There's no portable equipment requirements right now approved by the IMO. And you don't know how the Port State Control will react or how they will technically or physically inspect the vessel after, if they have any doubts of compliance. And so you don't want to have the vessel detained or delayed because the Port State Control taking samples sent to the lab. And the lab will take X amount of hours while the vessel is detained. So you got to take measures, you got to take preventive actions to avoid that to happen. Whether that is through the flag state and or body and worldwide coverage list of auditors and inspectors, or by training your own crew with additional equipment on board that can at least give the Port State Control indication that the equipment is working properly. We should evaluate a different approach in how to decide dates. I think the IMO and the member states are doing a great job addressing the problems and coming up with new rules that will help the environment. That's a commitment for all member states. The problem is we always find bumps in the middle of the road after we decide when to comply with the rules. And so we're sitting at the IMO. We decided the regulation will enter into force in X date, and without knowing what the practical consequences or the practical or realistic issues will be. And so probably a more technical debate incorporating more experts from the industry, looking at the different, let's say, loopholes or gray areas should be considered before agreeing on a date. But the most important thing for us is about 380 inspectors all over the world will be prepared to assist ship owners and operators in case they face difficulties by port state control while proving that their vessel complies with the Ballast Water Convention.